Okay, so today we are going to be talking about fight scenes, battles, physical conflicts within books. Dear Authors is a series where readers come together and chat about elements of the books, stuff that we like, things that we enjoy. It's a community of readers coming together and having kind of a public chat. So I posted on my community tab, I'll put it right there. We're talking about fight scenes today. We're talking about physical conflicts, battles, attacks, what we like, what makes them feel more boring and like we're waiting for the end, and what makes us on the edge of our seat. This one was really fun to read through the comments on because there are certain things that were repeated so many times. And then there were other comments that were so long and so detailed and well thought out. So I really recommend checking out that community tab, but I'm going to do my best to summarize some of the most popular, most frequently repeated comments, what seems to be the general consensus, at least amongst my audience. And then I'll direct you towards some of those really long, really good ones near the end as well. So I'm going to start this off with the most upvoted comment as of the day after I posted this community tab. And it says, "Good. When the author puts in a lasting consequence for the world building, akin to the air nomad genocide in Avatar, it makes the fighting have higher stakes." And I'm gonna follow that up with another Avatar content because Avatar has become a part of my being. When there is a personal connection between the two fighting, for example, in Avatar, the battle between Zuko and Azula is considered to be the most impactful due to their relationship to each other, in comparison to Aang's battle with Ozai, which was more a battle to stop a war than anything personal. When there's a personal conflict / inner battle waged between those fighting, it's generally more impactful to me. So these are two examples of how to raise the stakes of the battle without actually having to change the way the battle is written at all. When there's personal stakes for the characters, whether it be conflict between the two characters because of the relationship that they have, because of the tension they have, because of the way that they've manipulated, abused, bullied, gaslighted. I'm really talking about Azula here. The way they've broken the character down, the way that the characters view each other. That sort of emotional stakes brings the stakes so much higher for the reader without ever actually having to touch how the battle itself is written. Same with Aang and the Air Nomads. He had so much personal stake in this war, and that alone makes us more invested because we care about Aang. We care about the character. Ideally, the characters have been built up well enough that when the characters have emotional stakes, so do the readers. We care what these characters are going through. So it's more than just an intense action sequence. Our emotions are involved, so we're naturally going to care more about how this battle goes. I'm going to follow this up with a comment that I think is really important and something that I think very few books and movies and series in general handle well. Wars do not stop after a final battle. Even if the main antagonist fails, not every one of their soldiers would surrender the cause they were fighting for. And who's to say that no one would take the place of the main antagonist and continue the war as the new leader? This is something that I've actually talked about several times on this channel, and I'm pretty sure at least one other time in Dear Authors. And that's that it doesn't work for the conflict, for the world to be all better when the bad guy loses, when the main antagonist that we're facing off against, when they die, when they're defeated. This isn't the Lion King. All of a sudden, the sun doesn't come out, the grass doesn't grow, the world doesn't live in harmony. When the big bad is defeated, the rest of the world isn't just all better. Let's see consequences for war. Let's see the aftermath. Let's see the peoples whose homes and lives and livelihood were devastated by this war. Let's see the people, the normal, average people who didn't even fight in the war, who don't believe in what the main character is doing and isn't happy with the way this war turned out. Let's see the conflict from the people who were fine living under the big bad and his rule and his dictatorship. The people who were benefiting by what he was doing when he was leading, even if they're not necessarily actively fighting under him. They benefited from him, so they liked his rule. As well as seeing the emotional impact for the characters who were involved in the war, the people who had to watch their comrades die, the people who had to physically kill someone. Even if they believed that person was bad, they still killed someone. That's gonna affect them. Having the war end and then the sun comes out and the grass grows and now we all live in harmony, this is not satisfying, and this is not going to be an ending that readers walk away from feeling heavy and feeling like they're going to think about this book for a long time. That's going to feel like an ending that, okay, it's done now, I can move on to the next thing. Authors want to leave their readers thinking about their book after it's finished, and having a war with no consequences, having a war that ends after one person dies and then everybody's fine, this is not an ending that people are going to think about after the book is done. I hate when there's no variety in the fighting. When it's the same moves over and over again, it can get boring. So I'm going to put a pin in this comment because this is really important, and there are ways to break up that action. There are ways to break up he lifted his arm, and actually just in general, we don't need a beat by beat scene. We don't need to know that he lifted his arm and then brought it down with a mighty blow and then lifted his other arm and scratched his back. We don't need every single thing that happened, every single beat in the battle. That's gonna get boring to read really fast. But along with that, we also don't need just nonstop, here's an action, here's an action, here's an action, here's an action. There are ways to break it up, and we're gonna discuss that. I hate when the entire series is focused on one big battle that will happen at the end of it. But when it actually comes, it's over quickly with little to no deaths or casualties. If the entire book, if the whole book is built up around this one battle, we're all leading up to and waiting for this one battle that is the focus of all the buildup in this story, and then we get there and it's over in 10, 20, even 30 pages, and it's easy. Oh, it's disappointing. It will leave a sour taste in the reader's mouth. That is for sure. A battle doesn't have to be 100 pages long to be good, but if the entire book is leading up to a battle and then the battle is over so fast, you should have been building up to something else, because that was not a satisfying enough climax. Bad, not seeing the effects of the war, whether our characters see battlefields filled with corpses, ruined villages, or simply economic issues. It doesn't matter much to me. I just want to see the damage, even if our main character isn't on the front lines. We can't just have a story talking about the war and never truly see what is wrong with it. Wars suck. They can destroy civilizations, even when that side wins. Please show us the damage, or it doesn't seem real. So we already discussed this at the very beginning, one of the first comments, but I really want to nail this home because this is something that a lot of people said, and that's talking about the after effects of war. If it's over and everything's fine, it's not going to be satisfying. I see this comment now and then, and I don't quite understand it, and it's the comment of, it's fiction, you shouldn't be so critical of it, just enjoy the ride, don't expect it to be realistic. But of course I want it to be realistic. If I have stakes in this, if I'm invested in these characters, if I'm invested in the story, if I'm invested in seeing what happens, and then what happens is something that would never actually happen, and it's completely convenient and easy and simple, of course I'm going to be disappointed by that. This is something that a ton of people said over and over again in the comments, and that was just, please show us the after effects. Show us how this war affected the world. War is not a pretty thing, and it doesn't have to be grimdark in order for us to see that it's not pretty. We can see the emotional effects, and that leaves it away from grimdark if that's not what this book is about, but it still makes us realize, ow, this really hurt. This came with consequences. I hate pointless sacrifices in big battles. Not necessarily the main character, but other characters especially. Sometimes it makes sense, but most times I feel like it's done purely for shock value and could have been avoided easily. I'm gonna touch on this one really quickly because I don't see it happening as often, but stupid sacrifices, I'm going to say the way the Divergent trilogy ended, and I'm gonna leave it there, is a great example of, okay, that was nice of you, but also, why did you do it? You didn't need to. This needn't have happened. I really loved that the Divergent trilogy ended in a way that was not common, and that the author took a big risk with what she did. I just wish she would have done it in a way that was impactful for the story and not just this was unnecessary. Just make it make sense. For books, more focus on tactics, less focus on individuals fighting. The individuals feel more repetitive from story to story, but tactics can vary quite a bit. I feel the reason we're seeing more of the latter in recent years is that for movies, the opposite is true. In film, tactics are a bunch of people talking around a table, and combat is awesome. So this is going to be the first example of breaking up the action that we talked about earlier, where we don't need blow by blow, we don't need repetitive action, we don't need 100 pages of nonstop fighting. Breaking it up is going to be huge to make this battle more entertaining. And a great way to do that is to show the tactics, to show people planning, to show what's happening behind the scenes. Not everybody in the world is in this battle. Not every single influential person for this battle is on the front lines. So showing people reacting to what's happening, changing battle strategies, having a quick conversation about what they're going to do next, having people rush, having both sides stand face off, stare at each other for a long time, and then just rush the valley into each other. This isn't going to be very satisfying because an effective battle is going to be well thought out, well planned. There's going to be some sort of surprise element, some sort of trickery, some sort of elements of people up high, people down low. There's going to be a lot more happening than rush into battle, fight each other for 50 pages. Getting to see people take a moment to regroup, think things through, change battle tactics, being surprised by what's happening and have to shift strategies, these things can break up the action and can make it all feel really intentional, really real, and can make the reader a lot more invested. Okay, another one that came up a lot. I'm gonna say this. One of the most common comments on this thread was kill people. That seems, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I feel bad for constantly harping on when there's a big battle, when there's big stakes, I like to see a character die. But I really felt validified in this thread. I felt like, okay, a lot of people want this, because this came up so often in this thread. People saying there's a big giant war, there's huge stakes, people are dying everywhere, but our main cast is fine. There were so many comments saying, don't do this. There have to be sacrifices. There have to be people that don't make it through because it doesn't make sense otherwise. And don't get me wrong, some of my favorite books, some of my favorite series do this, where not that many people actually come out hurt or permanently wounded. One of my favorite series of all time, which I feel like I could say because it's a classic, but it's fine, I won't. The entire main cast, a huge main cast, is fine at the end. This is not something that readers tend to like. We like to see the sacrifices, we like to see the consequences, we like to feel a punch in the gut when someone that we actually care about dies. This is something that came up a lot in this thread. However, here's another thing that kind of adds a layer to that also came up a lot. Dramatically killing a character in the midst of the battle. Their death then inspires the rest of the main cast to finally win, and then magical resurrection. Oh my goodness, shock horror! I'm over it. Kill characters and make them stay dead. Also, this happens all the time, but when a battle is unwinnable and there's loads of tension and you think, finally, the characters are gone for and you're in the edge of your seat and then magically an ally appears. Wow, so convenient. Again, this more harps on the conveniences and the fake stakes. Like, you made me more in this character and then you cheapened it. I had false emotions because you just brought them back. This wasn't satisfying at all. And resurrection can be done well, but I think usually it's more used in the sense of the author wants the readers to feel something and then they can't commit, so they just try to make the reader falsely feel it without the actual consequences. And this is really unsatisfying. Just as well, the readers finally think there's no way they can make it out, and then the author brings in a magically, oh, actually, no, there's a whole army here to save you. It's fine. Now, I've seen this done well, and I've seen this done poorly. The main goal here is to make it all feel cohesive, make it make sense, and not just a cop-out. One of the things I find most frustrating is when supposedly brilliant strategic military minds make decisions that even I, a middle-aged stay-at-home mom with no military training, can tell is going to end in disaster. There are good reasons for some of these decisions, compelled generals, I'm looking at you, that are well supported in the story, but those aren't the ones I'm complaining about. There's a fine line between rewarding your readers for recognizing good foreshadowing and flawed characters and simply making your generals make stupid decisions because it furthers the plot. This has been talked about a lot in Dear Authors, so I won't harp on it a lot here, but making characters feel realistic, making them have reasonable decisions, and not making them stupid, making stupid decisions just to further the plot. This is always frustrating in every situation. I hate when the author introduces a new character 3/4 of the way through the book for the sole intention of killing them in the fight, just to make it seem like a side has casualties in the matter. It's annoying. What is even worse is the resurrection of a character before the big fight. Like I said, that comes up a lot. But I just wanted to add this to add one more layer, adding a random side character, giving us a little bit of emotional connection to them, and then killing them off. And it's clear that that character was only introduced so that they could be killed, so that one of the more important people wouldn't have to be killed. We see it. We notice. We hate it. Okay, this comment is going to be the really important one that builds on the we don't want a blow-by-blow, we don't want action, ways to break up the action to make it more entertaining for readers. I really like when the war is in different perspectives. For example, one group is taking the north side, another is defeating the magical thing or whatever. I don't know if it happens much, but I still have yet to read a book that has the villain's perspective on the war that's happening, like an actual perspective, not like a little do they know in script with an evil smile. And let's not forget the political sides of waging war. This is huge for me. I love it when a battle is long and drawn out so that we can really be on the edge of our seats and really feel the impact of it, but it's broken up with multiple perspectives. We have these people over here that's watching everything from above and that's changing the tactics and changing the strategies and sending messages so that people know how to fight the best. We have these people over here who are being completely overcome and it looks like they're not going to make it out alive, and we probably have a couple deaths over here as well. We have this person who's on the upper ground and he actually looks like he's making headway in the war. And then yeah, sure, throw in the villain perspective as well. I really hesitate about villains' perspectives because they're so often ha ha ha, let me show you why I'm evil, mustache twirly, cheesy one-liners. It's hard. When you're following the good guys, it's hard to make a villain's perspective satisfying. I'm usually only satisfied with that if we're following the villain. But if you can do it well, if you can handle that, then please do insert that as well. But being able to see the strategy, being able to see people overcome, see people standing back to back and fighting together, seeing the different perspectives of war and being able to bounce between our crew and have the action broken up by the different perspectives, short, quick scenes from moment to moment to show how fast this war is happening, how great the stakes are. This gets, oh my goodness, this gets my heart racing. I'm gonna be honest with you, battle scenes rarely do it for me. It's pretty rare that I get to the point of the battle or the war of the book and I'm not feeling by the time we get to the end relieved that we're at the end. For whatever reason, battle scenes tend to not grip me. I know different readers are different. Some readers love them a lot more than I do, but the only battle scenes that really get me on the edge of my seat are if one, like we talked about at the beginning of the video, there are emotional stakes that make me on the edge of my seat for the sake of the emotional structure of these characters, or two, if because it's written in a way where it's jumping from moments of the battle, from sections of the battle, from different standpoints, situations, characters playing different roles, and they're short scenes that are jumping around. That's what makes me feel the pacing of the war, how fast it is, how terrifying it is, how quickly one moment a life could be there and the next it couldn't. That's what makes me feel the stakes of what these characters are going through, and that's what makes me feel not bored by by one scene, one perspective, one ongoing battle, but actually how big this is and how many people it affects. This really widens the scope of what we're discussing when books use this. And that's not to say that every battle has to be written this way, especially a lower stakes battle, not an all-out war where people are going to die. This is the climax of the whole book. That's a great time to use this. In a simple battle scene that's more towards the beginning or the middle of the book, this tactic isn't as ideal. And this writing tool doesn't have to be used in every book at all. It just happens to be my favorite and the best way to get me on the edge of my seat. And if you can combine the two, if you can give me short scenes from multiple perspectives all across the battlefield and give me one or two or a couple of those perspectives having high emotional stakes, I'm going to eat it up. Okay, we're near the end, but I really want to insert this one as well because I think it's so important for raising stakes and for raising the investment of the reader. When the protagonist's side actually loses a battle against the enemy side, it increases stakes and conflict, making for a more exciting read. There were a lot of comments like this one, and the general sentiment is having smaller stakes battles or smaller stakes conflicts throughout the story that the protagonist keeps losing to the point where when the bigger battle comes along, the protagonist has lost as often as he's won, and when we get to the big battle, I don't actually know if he's gonna make it out or not. Or if there's multiple perspectives. I don't know who's gonna make it out, but I assume someone's not. Having small losses increases the stakes. Having a character just blow through everything and be fine all the time makes me so bored. Even in the big battle, having some of our main crew get beat down and it looks like they're not gonna make it, only to rise up because of some sort of trickery or some sort of, maybe they had some sort of knowledge that they gained throughout the book, and having to switch off from just trying to do brute strength and then switch on to, I know this tactic that I've learned over my course as we've been reading with them. This sort of stuff is so much more impactful for the reader because we actually wonder who's gonna win this. But if they're constantly winning everything easily, we feel nothing. I'm gonna finish this video just by pointing out one really long comment that I'm not gonna read out because it would take a long time, but I'm showing it on the screen, and then I'm also going to have a link to this specific comment in the description of this video so that you can go to that comment in this community thread. This comment was so well thought out. There are so many great tips, and it's kind of like a how to write battle scenes 101 comment almost. I really recommend checking it out if you are interested in that. But the main things that came up on this thread were consequences, both emotional and physical, not having it all build up to this one big threat that was super easy to defeat once we actually get to it, having actual consequences for the war as well and not just the characters, economical consequences, consequences for people that weren't fighting in the war. There were a lot of people commenting saying that they wanted to see the outside elements of the war as well, like how are the soldiers getting fed in order to be able to fight for these long periods of time? What's the background of the war? What's the history of this? Why are we even here? How does the society feel about this? Not just the big bad and the big hero. There are a lot of elements to consider and a lot of things that we maybe don't need pages and pages and pages of descriptions on, but having those things in there make us feel like it's more fleshed out, more thought out, more real, something that we can actually sink our teeth into. I actually want to end this video recommending a video by a friend of mine, Tim from Hello Future Me. He recently did a whole video on fight scenes. And my perspective on this topic is more about involving the community, talking to readers about themes and patterns that we tend to fall for and things that tend to be boring and fall flat for us. Tim's perspective is more on a technical writing standpoint. He read some of the books that are the best well known for their best written battle scenes. He read through those, he read through interviews with authors, and he talked about the technical things, the technical elements that make fighting scenes more gripping, that make them better written. So now that you've had the reader's perspective, themes, and overall elements that we love and enjoy, I highly recommend checking out Tim's video to get the more technical elements of how to make these fight scenes really, really land well. I also recommend just checking out the community post because there are so many great comments there, and I was not able to hit on all the things that people were discussing. I hope you enjoyed this segment of Dear Authors. There will be a playlist linked in the description for more Dear Authors videos if this is your first one. And as always, thank you guys so much for participating in this series. One of the reasons I enjoy this series so much is because of the community aspect. I love being able to have kind of a group discussion of what we like and don't like. And there are so many good comments on these posts, so I just appreciate you guys so much. Be sure to keep this discussion going in the comments. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon.